Welcome back to my channel. It is me, Jovian, your spiritual big brother. I really wasn't gonna make it. Well, yes, I was. I was originally on TikTok explaining my thought process on a certain subject, and I realized I talk too slow for TikTok, and 3 minutes isn't enough, and 10 minutes. Like they give you a 10 minutes time span on TikTok, but I'm like, I'm not gonna waste my time on TikTok. I could just, I could just say what my thought process on the tube. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it. Earlier today, I was having a conversation with my sister, and we were just talking about how she was just telling me how she started reading the Bible, you know, and all that stuff, right? And then she then proceeds to tell me that, oh, and I seen that Bible that you have, and I like the way it looks. It looks really cool. This is what she was talking about, and it does in fact look really cool. I should just got this a couple of weeks ago. All right. But anyway, we and I don't know why I feel the need to share this, but um, it just came out of nowhere how we got on this conversation. But she was telling me, I was telling her, yeah, I don't read it, I study it because I have questions, and she was like, "What do you mean?" Then I proceeded to tell her that I would rather understand. I would rather read and learn from my own understanding than have somebody like I don't mind people teaching me, but I don't like people teaching me their interpretation, right? I like having my own one-on-one. Hold up, give me 1 minute. My bad. I like having my own one-on-one, my own understanding. You know what I'm saying? So I was telling her that, give her scriptures and whatnot that I've read that confirm what I felt, right? Even though the Bible has been manipulated so many times, and all that stuff, right? So I proceed to tell her that you got to get it for your own understanding, right? For your own um own understanding, right? That way you know that the connection is true and the connection is there, you know. And then so I decided to tell her about how the only thing flawed, one of the few things that's flawed about the Bible is that it has a lot of missing context. Like Ethiopia got the oldest Bible in the world, and I'm not sure if they have all the books, but I know they have the oldest Bible in the world, right? And I'm telling her there's lost books of the Bible, right? And she's like, "What you mean lost?" Well, lost books, as in books was taken out of the Bible, so the Bible isn't even complete, right? And also, there have been words that's been changed in the Bible that people do not know of, right? So you gotta take it almost with a grain of salt. And that's why I say you gotta get it for your own understanding, right? Let me show you. Hold up. My bookshelf is like behind my bed, so ooh, shoot. So right here, lost books of the Bible. I don't know if you could like flip it. I'm gonna see if you can. Well, I'm gonna see if I can. But so I was telling her about all the locks of the books of the Bible, and I was like, yeah, it's been manipulated. So it's like people. That's why being in church is so confusing at times. But it's like that doesn't align with everything that you know. But anyway, so we proceeded to talk about getting your own understanding and getting your own wisdom, right? And I was saying that if anybody know me, my mom would tell you that I always been curious about everything, and my oldest sister would tell you that I always question everything. There was this one time I was in church. I grew up Christian, right? I was in church and I was thinking to myself, real young type. I was thinking to myself, if our religion is right, why isn't it the only one in the world? And if everybody else's religion is wrong, why are they still here? Right? That didn't make sense to me. Right? Which led me to the path to become an omniist. An omniist, in short note, is someone who believes in truth in all religions, right? Cool. So I believe there's some truth in every religion. So when I went off to school, I studied religion. I didn't study to a deep extent. My bad. I didn't study to a deep extent, but I studied it enough to have an understanding that there are some key components that are similar across the board. You have source. You have three figures of source. You have the number seven. You have a main figure that's related to the source, etc., right? Um, and then you have heaven or a hell. You have a higher upper realm and lower realm. You have just stuff like that that's similar, right? So that's when I start to believe that there's belief in every religion. I don't think one religion is right. I think they're all right. If to be honest, religion it just speaks the tongue of the people, right? Religion is just people have this context that religion enslaves people, and it only enslaves people who allow themselves to be enslaved. You know what I'm saying? It gives religion gives people a foundation so they don't go off into the deep end. It gives people something to come back to when, because spirituality is vast. That like it's vast and it's so easy for people to go off the handle, get lost in the sauce, and go off on the deep end. Psychosis. So religion gives people that foundation, and all that stuff, right? I know in most African religions there's no heaven or hell, but there's a concept of heaven or hell everywhere, but in other places too, or the lower realm and the upper realm, which is heaven or hell, right? Then there's us, the middle world, right? I played this game called Bayonetta, and they called it Paradiso and Inferno. Um, but anyway, anyway, so they have some key components. So I was explaining to her that if you really want to know what's going on, and side note, I was also telling her about Revelations. You know, Revelation. They say she said it's the end of the Bible. I said it's the end of the beginning, right? And what I mean by that is they say I was always told that if you ever want to know what happened before Genesis, they say read Revelations, and the Bible just basically repeats itself. So the Bible is just a representation of history repeating itself, right? I'm no Bible thumper, obviously, but I do have some understanding of it, you know. So going back to my original direction, I don't. Okay, so I was explaining to her about the concept of heaven and hell, and reincarnation and karma, right? The how I believe in all of that. I also believe in the final judgment. I also believe in, because my thing is, despite how people may feel, despite the biases they have towards these terminologies, it's a concept that came from somewhere. Whether it's being used to manipulate people or used to control people or whatever, right? It's still a concept that came from somewhere, despite who it came from. So when people take themselves out of the equation and look at it from the outside, you'll see that it came from a source. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I do, even though most African American, I'm not African American, African traditions did not believe in heaven or hell. They say it doesn't exist, right? I do feel like there is a version of it that do exist, not called heaven or hell, right? I feel like there's realms. There's realms, right? But it's all like, honestly, there's no blue lines. It's all the same energy to me. It's all the same energy to me, but different concepts, same energy. So it's just like terminology, whatever. But going, I do believe in a heaven or hell. And hell, I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe in karma. I do believe in nirvana. I do believe in all of that. I, I've learned that whatever you believe in is your state of mind in the afterlife, right? Now, here's where I put the pieces together, and this is what makes sense to me. It don't have to make sense to anybody else. This is what makes sense to me, right? And I understand this by watching this show called Lucifer, and it got me to thinking. So in Lucifer, when people go to hell, they didn't realize they could leave hell. See, when they went to hell, they're suffering by their own guilt and shame, right? But they don't realize that once they confront their guilt and shame, they have the ability to leave, right? Now, when people who believe in heaven or hell, it's indoctrined that heaven and hell is an eternity, right? When it's really a state of mind. So I do believe in the afterlife, people go to their version of hell or their version of heaven, right? And I do, and what happens is once they realize that they could leave either hell or heaven, they're given a choice to reincarnate or stay. Most people, and I feel like most people who go to hell, quote unquote, they choose, once they realize that they have a choice, they will reincarnate. But one of the concepts of reincarnation, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the life you lived previously, if a bad life, you live a worse life when you get reincarnated, and the life you live, if you lived a good life, like if you get reincarnated, then and then you live a good life, right? Now, people who realize they're in hell and realize they can leave hell, they choose to leave under the contract that since they lived a bad life, they get reincarnated into a worse life, and how they act until how they act will determine what happens to them in the afterlife again. Right? They get reincarnated. Where people who go to heaven and hell are like waiting rooms, right? Heaven and hell don't have a time frame. It feels like eternity. What feels like eternity to them is only a couple of seconds or hours. So time doesn't work the same way time works here, right? Time is so different in the spiritual realm. So what happens there is people realize that, okay, I could leave, but who wants to leave heaven? Nobody wants to leave heaven, right? So you get elevated into another state of being, right? Now, there are people in heaven who can choose to reincarnate heaven, who can choose to reincarnate and have another purpose served here on earth, right? And that's by their choice. There are people who don't choose and want to stay in their version of heaven, right? But people who are in hell, who are entrapped in that. First of all, people who are in hell, again, they're already indoctrinated that this is eternity. There's no way I'm leaving this down the third, so they don't think in their mind that, damn, I have the ability to leave this place, to negotiate this contract, or any of that things of that nature. They don't think like that, because they have this indoctrination that hell is eternity. There's no escape. This is it. That's that and the third, right? So if that's what they believe, that's where they're going to stay, right? Cool. So people who are, but when people who do realize that um they're in hell and they can realize that, okay, I can negotiate this on the third, maybe I can reincarnate into another life. They reincarnate to a bad life. They could honestly come back as a snail. You know what I'm saying? And they negotiate a contract, right? So I do believe like heaven and hell are like waiting rooms that people don't realize. The spirits, the souls don't realize are waiting rooms, right? Until it's brought to them, or until they realize I could change this, right? Now, the final judgment. I have no concept of the final judgment. I'm not even here. I can't even sit here and act like I do. But I do think that we all eventually go back to source, a part of source, and then a part of source, wherever that might be, right? Souls reincarnated somewhere else in the universe, all that stuff, right? Because I don't even believe that we're the only people in this vast universe. I really don't believe that. I don't believe that. I can't. There's no way in my mind that I can believe that. You know what I'm saying? Just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean I don't believe it. Like I know we're not the only people, and like we're special, but god dang, we not that special. To be the only people on Earth. Come on now, nah. But I digress. So with the concept of heaven and hell, or um, I do believe that those are states of mind, and I do believe that's what a version of what happens, right? Like how um, and I think part of the judgment is where Enpu, aka Anubis, weigh your heart on a feather on the scales of Ma'at, and it is judged. And if your heart is lighter than a feather, then you go on to glory and whatnot. But if your heart is heavier than a feather, then you get devoured by, I want to say Amit, if I pronounce the name right. So it's the fact that these concepts came from somewhere. And I think every religion is a piece of the puzzle. See, the problem is everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be dominant. Everybody wants to be that one, right? But if it can't be that one if there's so many, right? Because not everything will apply to one. It's like having a puzzle. It's like having a puzzle with a 5,000 piece puzzle with one piece. How you gonna see the whole picture? And it probes the question: do people even want to see the whole picture, right? Do people want to believe that they're the whole picture? At one point, people thought they were the center of the universe till they realized, you're not, right? They even thought the sun was the center of the universe. It's not. It's not even the center of the galaxy. It's the center of the solar system, but not the galaxy. There's a black hole at the galaxy, you know, in the middle of the galaxy, right? Ooh, now that I think about it, ooh, Lord. But I say that to say this. Being on your spiritual journey requires you to have some type of this, I'm about to say discernment, have some type of dedication to know that, to understand that you have to get it for your own. Get it for yourself, right? To come up with concepts that make sense to you to help put the pieces together, right? And don't mind me, I've been drinking juice. Adult juice, but juice. But, and that's what it comes down to. In this day and age, we can no longer pretend to be ignorant to the possibility of things outside of what we already know or what we think we know. We can't be willing to be ignorant and choose to ignore. And like as I'm talking about this, I just feel that this energy rising up. You know what I'm saying? We can't pretend like we just don't know, right? We can't pretend like it's just us, our religion, one religion is right. It's so many, so many, and it a you can't disown all of it, right? Um, I was about to talk about the New World Order of One Nation, right? But I feel like, yeah, we're all one, but we're all different too. The whole concept of it isn't to make us one and you like one and the same. We're supposed to be united in our differences. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be united this in our differences to get the whole picture. You only have one concept. You only have one piece of the puzzle. And if you only focus on that one piece, you would never get the bigger picture, right? You would never get the bigger picture. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this finds you well. I look like I look like I hope this finds you well. And until next time, peace.